Hey everybody, Mylo Xyloto. Wow. Here goes. The record kicks off boldly with the title track, Mylo Xyloto. Sort of pseudo-twee, sparkling, glimmering production make this track instantly identifiable as a different endeavor than their prior. And while it is easy to point and laugh at it as an instant sellout, I think the production is unique and honestly extremely engrossing, at least at this point in the record. Mylo Xyloto spills effortlessly and explosively into Hurts Like Heaven, one of my favorite opening tracks from any Coldplay record. It dives headfirst into this glimmering, spectacular production, and shoots out these bombastic verses about being alive and free, and making yourself free. It's utterly freeing. The lyrics take the fire from my belly and the beat from my heart, and use your heart as a weapon, and I struggle with the feeling that my life isn't mine. Strikes me. It feels utter and impactful in a way that they've never done before. The ripping guitar solo wrapped in a clicky, ticky percussion section, and all the glimmering bells and whistles they can muster, is a gorgeous, expansive, almost maximal feeling. The way it slowly fades out with that hooky guitar tone is excellent as well. I really dig this song. And then Paradise comes along and it's just alright in my opinion. I can appreciate the pounding bass in this song, but the appeal on its simple hook and chorus don't leave much to the imagination here, and there's not much else going on to compensate. I don't hate this song or anything, and it does give the album that early-headed anthem it obviously wants to provide, but it's at the expense of simplifying that glossy, gorgeous production. Not a worthy trade-off in my opinion. The album picks up again with the third track, the gorgeously mixed Charlie Brown. Another explosive song with an infectious riff that hooks you in basically the whole way through, and layers on top of that affection with a rip-roaring live drum section and electronic riff during that sort of wordless chorus that changes verses every time. The switch-up that occurs to redirect that energy is not needed at all, but perfectly marks the core appeal of the album for me, pushing so hard, so fast to culminate in an infectious, again explosive ending that capitalizes, much like the rest of the song, on its attention and maximalism. The album kind of falls flat after this with Us Against the World. I understand wanting a little break against the harsh pop vomit, in a good way, of its prior tracks, but it could have easily achieved this better with some ambience, maybe even discarded lyrics entirely. I mean, they have Brian Eno working on this thing and they really couldn't have done something like that? Instead we have a dull acoustic ballad with a dull electric riff flying high over it. The lyrics are interesting and fun to watch progress, but it's just not worth it. They can do this sort of thing much better when they properly subdue themselves, and this is not that album. The reverb and backing vocals here are also not doing the sort of mood I think they're going for any favors. It feels like they wrote this for a concert, honestly. MMIX is a nice interlude that really should have been longer to give the songs surrounding it the proper room to spread their wings. It's otherwise a pleasant, soothing interlude that gets the job done alright. The track after this, Every Teardrop is a Waterfall, is a sort of thumping anthem that confirms the notion that yes, there's no going back. It builds up satisfyingly and all that, and the instruments finally get their time to shine, for once, which is refreshing, but the track just doesn't have enough going for it. The build-up is somewhat impactless and almost passes you by upon entering the chorus. That pounding drum spot at the end is phenomenal though, and leads extremely well into one of my favorites on the track list, Major Minus. This track starts with a very hooky acoustic riff accompanied by some ticky light production before diving into a story about conforming to some powerful authoritative presence. It's cool here, and unlike most of the album, capitalizes on this premise lyrically. Plus, the small electric riff that transitions the track before each chorus is pretty stellar. The album seems to lose track of itself with another acoustic ballad sporting some really distracting production which arises towards the middle. It's charming and I do like it, but it's too overreaching for such a minimally arranged and quiet track that would benefit from some untampered delivery. Unlike Major Minus, the lyrics here are too vague to feel meaningful, something that so much of the album fails to deliver on. The ending is great though, with its harmonics and slow-tempered reflection, something I wish was carried out for longer here. Princess of China makes its presence immediately known following this, and let me just say I actually really like this song. It's frustratingly simple production-wise, and like much of this thing could have maybe benefited from the maximal style of Hurts Like Heaven, at least by easing into it. But it's catchy, and knows how to advance the melody to keep me engaged. The lyrics are cool too. Chris and Rihanna playing in a fun, if shallow duet that showcases nothing but is at least a nice change of pace. Rihanna's voice isn't something I can really get behind though. There's just not enough flavor going on there, and it shows with her performance on this track. Still, it's again a fun tune that stands as one of my favorites, sort of, on the track list. The album completely falls apart, thematically and mechanically, with the dull and under-arranged Up in Flames. This is easily my least favorite song on the entire album. Again, we see dull, uninspired lyrics paired with dull, uninspired production that just doesn't know what to do with itself. Chris's piano playing, for once, brings me out of the track, and the ambience is electronic here really only to keep in tandem with the other tracks. I like the bass here, and that's it. The album comes back from the dead, thank God, with A Hopeful Transmission, a short but enjoyable retread of an old interlude, and Don't Let It Break Your Heart. This track is a phenomenal and instantly catchy comeback from the sort of soggy tracks prior. It properly takes the idea from Hurts Like Heaven and turns the whole affair up to an 11, matching the energy and intensity perfectly. Each piece of this seethes with some kind of energy, really the sort of energy the rest of the album should have emitted. It ends with that energy intact to lead climactically into the next track, Up With the Birds. This one is a solid ending track that thankfully tones it down at the beginning and later indulges itself in a hearty dose of ambience and dream pop, until naturally rounding things out with another inspirational platitude that I'm sure Bono would have been very proud of. It's catchy and ends on a twinkling glimmer of hope before the credits roll, and honestly, I can't complain too much. Despite my irritation with the conformity of it all, it's still one of the better tracks here. There's that word, conformity. I don't know how they did it, but Coldplay managed to take one of the most piddling left turns in music history, and completely fell off because of it. Not the worst, and certainly not the best, but this album only just barely capitalizes on its potential, which struck me as a huge disappointment. While I do give them points for trying, they simply didn't know what to do with themselves here. Even Brian Eno couldn't help them out. They could have had something really cool on their hands, but they just wasted it. I'm feeling a 45. So what did you guys think of this LP? Let me know down in the comments below. If there are any records you'd like to see reviewed by me, feel free to ask. And if you like this content, consider subscribing and hitting that bell for more of it. In any case, thanks for your time, and have a great day.